This past summer, I went to a woodworking event in Oklahoma, and while I was there, I picked up this beautiful slab of Osage orange from my friend Ted Alexander. And the moment I laid my eyes on this slab, I knew what it was going to be because at the time, I was designing an outdoor fire pit for our backyard at home. And so this had a really nice curve to it, and so I figured it would be the perfect bench for our backyard to go around the fire pit. So I was really excited to get started on this. The first thing I did was just rip all the bark off of it, and when I did, all of this color just popped out of the live edge. I was just really excited about how the live edge looked and all the color variation. So I was just really excited about getting some finish on that and see how that was going to pop. But the next thing I wanted to think about was how I was going to do the legs. And the thing that I settled on was I was going to drop one side, cut part of the slab off and drop it down for one of the legs, and it was going to have this mitered corner look. And so I had to figure out, the height of the leg and all that, and cut the angles there. And on the other side, I was going to make some hickory legs. I was going to turn a couple of legs and have some splayed legs on one end, and like I said, on the other end was going to be the slab leg. So I'm turning the legs down here just to a rough shape. The final shape that I'm looking for is just a tapered leg from the middle, and it's tapered down in both directions. It's just a simple look. But I'll get back to the legs a little bit later on. The next thing I wanted to do was to figure out where I wanted to put some bow ties. I had a few splits in this slab on the ends, and so I wanted to put some bow ties in there and just kind of dress it up a little bit and give it a nice look. And I'm cutting the bow ties out of the same hickory that I'm doing the legs with, and so it should tie all together. And so what I did, I just took a strip of hickory, it's long grain here, draw out what shape I want for each individual split, and then I'll go to the bandsaw and cut it, and then I'll take it back over to the slab and trace it out, and I'll be sure to number those so I don't get anything mixed up. I'll know which bow tie goes where. And after I got it traced out, I just take my router and I just hog away the majority of the waste as much as I can without going over the line. And then once I get all of that routed out, I can go back with a chisel and clean up the corners and clean up the sides. I like to put a little angle down towards the bottom of the recess there to kind of give the glue somewhere to go. Kind of gives it a better bond. And so that was a good experience. I haven't done a whole lot of bow ties, but it was really fun getting the mallet and the chisel out and going to work. So when I get all that cleaned up, I can take and put my bow ties in, just glue it, just spread the glue around like crazy and just tap the bow ties down into place. And now I did have a few gaps here and there that I had to go back and fill, but I'm not really looking for a perfect fit. I just want this, because the slab itself is not, without defect. I mean, it does have splits and it does have knots here and there. So I just think it goes hand in hand with the butterflies or the bow ties, whatever you want to call them. So I was really happy with the way all that came out. So to take the bow ties down flush to the slab, I took my number 5 Stanley plane and basically just went all the way down as far as I could to the slab before I started planing the slab itself. Because what I'll do is, as you see here, just take my sander and just sand everything down flush to the slab. Now I'm going to move on and try to get this leg glued up, and this was probably the most awkward glue up I've ever been through. There was probably a better way to do this, but I was ready to get this in place, and all I could think about was just getting that leg to be attached to the bench. And so I just take a clamping square and clamp it the best way I can here. And then on the other side, I've got like an old oak block, just a scrap piece that I'm using as a clamping square basically. And I can get that where I want to. Now I didn't show it in the video, but I did a dry fit previous to this to where I got it where I want it, and I made some reference marks, and then I went back and glued it up. I'm going to be using dowels to join this leg to the bench seat. So as you're looking at this bench is basically upside down, and I'm what I did was just mark out a couple of marks for each hole. I'm going to have 2 on the leg side and 2 on the bench top side. And they're going to be offset so they don't interfere with one another. So I've got the Forstner bit chucked up into my drill at the desired depth. So I know when my drill bottoms out, that is, that's as far as I need to go, obviously. But that will give me enough of the dowel rod into the bench top seat to really make this secure, and so I feel confident that this thing is not coming loose. So I got 2 of those holes drilled out. I filled them with glue and just spreading those all around, and then I can start just putting the dowels in. Now it's really a tight fit, but once I got these in here, I felt really, really good about how secure this was going to be. So once I got these dowels hammered all the way in to where they just bottomed out, I just took a handsaw and just cut these off. These are poplar dowels, so they're not really hard to work with. Really easy to cut and really easy to sand as well. So I had to flip this thing over, and it was really heavy. So now I've got to drill 2 more holes in the top, which is the seat, and put 2 more dowels in the top. Now I'm going to have, when this is all said and done, I'm going to have 2 in the leg side horizontally, and then 2 in the seat, which will be vertical. Should give me a really good solid joint, and the miter live edge here shouldn't separate. We'll see over time what happens, but I feel really good about how this joint turned out. So now that I got all that cut off and everything just sanded out flush, looked really, really good. I was very happy with the way that turned out. So moving on to the legs, I've got a couple of hickory legs here that I've turned down. I'm trying to figure out where to put these and the angle that I want, because I want these legs splayed. And so I'm going about this probably the wrong way, but what I'm doing is holding up the digital angle finder to my drill every so often and checking the angle and drilling that hole with my drill. So here I'm cutting the tenon on the legs, and by the way, you'll probably notice that I'm working on a different lathe here. That's another story, but anyway. So I'm checking the tenon to make sure I've got it at the right size for the hole that I've drilled. But before I put these legs in, I want to take and I want to drill a small hole all the way through, because I'm going to, once I get these legs glued in, I'm going to flip this bench over and also peg the top of the legs through the slab with more dowels. And so I want to give myself a mark where to drill those holes. I'll show you in a second. So now I can move on to the glue up for the legs. This is pretty much self-explanatory. Just put glue in the hole and put the legs in where they go. It's not really a wrong or right way here. Just put the legs in, give it a little slight twist, and they should be good to go. By the way, these fit really, really good. I was happy with the way these turned out as well. So far, things are going as planned. So now that I'm on the top, you can see over on the left that I've already done one. And what I'm doing is I'm drilling down into that leg, and you'll notice the different color chips that I'm bringing out. Part of that is the leg, which was good. I know that I hit it. And I'm just taking a dowel from the top and hammering it down into the top of that leg through the slab. And kind of what that creates is a stepped tenon, basically. Once the glue cures, it should be really, really strong. And again, I have no issues, or I don't expect any issues with the legs coming loose. So when all that's sanded out nice and flush, it all looks good to me, and I can move on to something else, which is the leveling of the feet. Now I've got the slab leg is very, very uneven. The hickory legs, I basically cut those off about an inch or half an inch too long, and so I just want to sand those down at an angle to give me the right distance from the bottom of the foot to the top of the bench, which is about 18 inches, is what I was shooting for. And while I've got this thing flipped over and easy to work with, I go ahead and just try to get all the saw marks out of the ends of the slab, which is really cool on this slab because it's got like a 3 branch type look on the end of that. And here I'm trying to level the slab leg out, and there was really no good way to do this. I just take my Sawzall and just start hacking away at it, and eventually I get this to where I want it, but you get the idea. Normally the finishing part of any project that I do is probably my least favorite, of applying the finish, because I don't like to paint or spray, but the actual transformation from when the finish is actually on the project, I absolutely love, because with this particular project, this bench came alive once the finish was applied to the bench. I could not be happier with the way this turned out. I learned a lot through this project. I tried some different things that I haven't tried before. I got better at some things. I made some mistakes on a few things, but overall, the bench exceeded my expectations. I'm very happy with the way it looks, and I might end up moving this thing inside because I have a little bit of fear that this thing is going to get ruined out in the rain and the weather and all that. But we'll see.